Hi, welcome to April 2025's third Thursday. We're going to be talking about supporting your student, a parent's guide to the transition to college. This next step is a giant step of independence for your student, and it is a giant step emotionally for most parents. So we do understand that letting go is hard. You have given birth and raised a child from newborn to the age of 18. You have been responsible for feeding and clothing and cleaning and taking care of most every needs of your student. At Crosby Scholars, we want your student to start to do some things for themselves with independence. We think middle school is a great opportunity for your students to start to learn how to do things for themselves, how to cook a meal, how to do their own laundry, how to clean their own room, how to wake themselves up and get themselves to school, how to communicate with teachers, that kind of thing. So, when your student actually goes off to college, um, depending on the level of success that your student has had in middle and high school with taking care of their own needs, they are going to be hit very quickly with the fact that they are responsible for their own daily needs. Now, on a college campus, it's great because there's lots of cafeterias and cafes and coffee shops, and you're funding it, right? Your mom and dad, you're not just pushing the baby bird out of the pocket. You're sending them with a debit card or a card that has food plan on it and their housing is covered and taken care of. But they will have to be responsible for getting themselves up, getting to class, doing their work, staying on a schedule, eating, sleeping, all of that stuff. So, some of this freedom can be difficult for students to manage, and some of this is really hard for mom and dad to let go, right? You are now not in control of every single step of your child's life, and that is okay. Mom and dad, you've done a good job if you can let go. So, I know letting go is hard, but it's an important step for both you and your student as you go into the next phase of your relationship. So, there's a couple things that you want to take in mind, parents, as you're letting your child go off to school. We have other sessions, you can find them on YouTube, and you can find information about FERPA. But basically, the key thing you need to know is that when your child's 18, the school doesn't need to report to you. You no longer control your student's privacy, it transfers to them. That means you will not have access to their grades, their schedules, their financial records. Um, as a parent with your student, there are at colleges the ability for you to get permission and special codes. Some schools set up like a PIN number where your student goes into the school's account and gives permission for you to talk to the school. Typically, this is around financial stuff. Very few colleges are giving you a PIN number to see grades, right? That is something that your student has access to, and you need to talk with your student about those expectations. But when it comes to medical information, financial information, safety information, do whatever the college asks you to do to get permission to talk to them on your student's behalf. This will involve your student. Your student will have to either fill out a form, fill out a release, or request the school to be able to talk to you. Um, the next thing is come to an agreement with your student, right? Discuss your expectations, the goals, your academic progress, set guidelines for student control, and agree when help might be needed. So, I have seen this to varying levels, right? I have seen a verbal agreement with parents. I have seen parents and students not talk about it at all. And then it is a very rude awakening when they come home on a break and the world is falling apart. And I've seen parents and students come up with a written contract where they say, this is exactly what we expect, and these are the ramifications if the expectations are not met. You know your student, you know your situation. I feel free to come up with some kind of an agreement with your student um, to help support them. The most important thing is letting your student know that yes, you are letting go, but you are here as a resource and help. So they can call you if they need you, right? Now, as far as academic life and independence, when students go off to college, this is not like kindergarten where you're holding somebody's hand and lined up in the hallway. This is not middle school where you're still in the same building but going to multiple classes. It's not even high school where you're driving yourself to school because all of those things are still structured. There's a time in the morning where you get there, there's a time in the afternoon, and there's some hurdles you have to go through to be able to go outside of those norms, right? When your student goes off to college, they will establish a schedule, but it is very possible that they will be in class 1 hour a day, right? Over a 5-day time frame. And that gives them lots of free time. And I'm not within these walls and teachers are not telling me what to do and that kind of thing. So that is great, but it also comes with some freedoms. And if the student doesn't like kind of take account early on, this level of freedom can cause some students some issues. So, first off, talk to your student about balance of academics. Academics, that's why you're there, right? You're there to learn. So the very best thing that your student can do, go to class. Okay. It sounds simple, right? But there's all these stories, you as parents, even, oh, 8 o'clock class was so hard to get to, right? It is so important to go to class. When you're in class, you have time with the professor. When you're in class, you are getting the assignments and the notes. If you have any questions, you can resolve them. Um, I would take it a step forward and say, go to class and meet other people in your class so that you can have like an accountability partner kind of thing, but encourage your student to do that. Also, encourage your student to meet with the professors during office hours. Office hours are there for a reason. It is unlike high school where your student has power school and grades are being put in daily or weekly or monthly for some, right? Um, it is very often that you do not really understand where you are grade-wise until way mid into the semester. So you want to make sure that your student is meeting with professors. You want to make sure that if they need any kind of academic support, if they're struggling, they use tutoring services, writing centers. All of that is there for a reason, right? Um, I would also encourage study groups. I mean, when you have a group of students that you get to know within a certain class, meet to study, come up with accountability partners. If for some reason you can't make a class, then you can get the notes from this person, and vice versa. You can provide notes to somebody else that might not have been able to make a class. And then stay on top of assignments. And this can be done, there's a syllabus at the beginning of the semester. Typically, professors are very good at telling you what they're going to expect from you, in what time frame they're going to expect it from you. So find that syllabus, review that syllabus, and don't wait until the last minute, right? Stay on top of those assignments. Don't say, oh, I've got until November to get these 5 articles read. No. If you have 5 articles you need to read, go ahead and read one a week, right? And if it's not due until November, or better yet, go ahead and get them done, right? I know that that is not the norm for most students, but staying on top of your assignments and understanding your syllabus and your expectations is going to go a long way. In regards to free time, um, free time, first off, is not necessarily always free time. Just because you're not in class doesn't mean you shouldn't be studying. Okay. So that is one thing that students need to understand is no, you're only in class 12 hours a week, but you should probably be doing schoolwork or homework an extra 2 hours. So that's another 24 hours, I would think, depending on the classes that you're taking and the labs that you're taking. So the free time that you think you have, you want to make sure that you're managing that for study and homework, papers, that kind of thing. But you also want to join clubs. Schedule breaks for yourself. Sleep and eat regularly, right? Someone who's just academic might struggle just as much as someone who can't get the academics done, right? So you want to make sure that there's some kind of balance there. And and look to your free time to kind of ease the pressure of some of the work requirements. Now, roommates is a big thing that a lot of students struggle with. So I dare say that 99% of the students that I interact with do not have to share a bedroom at home, which means that when they go to school or they go to work or they go to wherever they're going, when they come home, they have the opportunity to be in their own room by themselves and decompress. This is not a luxury that you have when you go off to college. So not only do you not have that space where you can be by yourself and do whatever you want, you also have another person who might have a different personality, might have different study habits, sleep habits, that kind of thing that puts your student on edge. Okay. So the first thing, communication is key, right? When you first get to college, your student is going to be met by the RA and your roommate, and they're going to talk about contracts and agreements. And most students just kind of roll their eyes about this. But if you can take this seriously and come up with an agreement, okay, what is my expectation? Do I want my roommate to bring outside guests into the room? Or is there a certain time of night that I don't want outside guests? I want to be able to get in my jammies after 9 o'clock at night and I don't have to worry about somebody coming into my room, right? So really follow the lead of the RA and the housing in regards to roommate contracts and agreements, right? Also, when you are picking your roommate, I want you to be very realistic with your living habits, okay? If you are a night owl, do not say that you're a morning person. If you're a morning person and not wanting to sleep at night, make sure you set that expectation. Your cleanliness, whatever they're asking, you really need to be honest in the evaluation of that. Because if a college is actually teaming you up with a roommate, you want somebody that you can kind of get along with, right? And if you have not presented yourself in an accurate way, then they might put you with somebody that might really get on your nerves, and it might not be a good living example. Um, I truly believe that being clean and respectful, right, is the next thing, right? So I know that a lot of students, understanding that this is a common space with your roommate, um, not leaving your pizza boxes on the floor, right? Just cleaning up after yourself, like keeping odors down, keeping food smell, food dirt and dirty towels and, just be clean and be respectful. Um, excuse me. Now I'm going to say conflict's going to happen, right? Your teens, you're going through a big transition in life, you're away from home for the first time, and whether you and your roommate don't get along or you're just having a bad day, there's going to be a time where this is going to happen, right? So what I would say is conflict's going to happen. Don't freak out, right? Talk it out. If you can talk to your roommate first, go ahead and talk to them. If they're willing to compromise or you're willing to compromise to come to a resolution, great. And then I would update those contracts accordingly. If it's not working out, use your RA or your housing services as an intermediary to kind of help you resolve the issues, depending on how serious the issues are. Um, you can also, parents, you want to be there to offer advice, but the student must take action, right? And the student has to control the process. So at the end of the day, find out from the school if you're just miserable with that roommate, see what you can do to change it, right? There might be a change fee. You might have to wait a certain amount of time. But, if this is an all year thing and a month in that this is not working, talk to the school, talk to the housing office. What do I need to do because this is just not working out, right? Your room should be your safe place, and I need you to be able to sleep. I need you to be able to feel confident and safe, and you don't want this to go on for a whole year. So if for some reason it's not working out, contact the school and figure out what you need to do to make a change. Okay. Now, the next thing that sometimes happens is homesickness, right? We have kids that are like, oh, I can't wait to get away from mom and dad. And then when they leave, they're like, well, wait a second. I'm used to being able to go straight to the refrigerator and get my soda. I'm used to mom cooking for me. I'm used to my laundry being done. I'm just used to my dog, coming home and my puppy running to me and saying, "Oh, I love you, puppy," whatever. So, so managing homesickness can be a thing. So first off, acknowledge it, right? And come up with a plan. I would encourage you, if your student is going to be living off uh, or on campus and away from home, I would set a few boundaries that when the student first gets to school, they can't come home the first weekend, right? I would set a time frame that you're giving your student stay on campus X amount of time, right? Because if they start coming home every weekend, they're never going to click with what's going on campus. And, that is a whole nother conversation in itself, right? So if you can, at the very beginning, acknowledge that it might be an issue, come up with a plan and set a time frame for them to give themselves a month to kind of figure it out, right? Secondly, encourage involvement. Students do not feel as homesick if they are participating with other students and activities. So this can be, the very first minute your kid is on campus, they have freshman activities, right? There's all these tables out on the quad and there's clubs that you can join and there's people group that you can do. The RAs are having joint meetings of the dorm, so everybody on your floor you're going to meet. Part of this too is to ease loneliness and kind of get you a group of people. Find somebody you can go eat with, right? I would even say leaving your door open in your dorm room can be very helpful in this, right? A lot of kids, when they go back to their dorm, they close the door and they're just sitting there like, oh, the world, I'm all by myself. And, honestly, most dorm floors have a good, at least 30 other kids on that floor. And just walking around and seeing open doors or knocking on a door and saying, hey, would you like to go get a coffee with me? Leaving your door open, you're open also to, hey, come in and talk. I want to meet, right? So that can help, right? Um, Parents set regular check-ins, right? Agree on either phone calls or text to check with your child. Um, do not make these overly frequent, right? Because if you don't give your student a chance to kind of figure it out on their own, it might make it worse, right? So say, you know what? I'm going to talk to you twice this week, Wednesday and Sunday, right? Um, and then, as it goes forward, you can adjust that. Um, but every couple days, and then as you move forward, a weekly check-in kind of thing. Excuse me. The other thing is send care packages and notes, right? Every student, I believe, most college campuses are going to have some way to get mail. And I know mail is kind of antiquated, but there's nothing like getting a package from home with your favorite treat or a little stuffy, or, encourage your friends and families. Grandma, please send a note. Um, Anything that can be encouraging to kind of lift your child's spirits. Care packages are and cards and notes are always a fun thing. Now, in regards to mental wellness, mental health and wellness, we know that this is a big thing. A lot of it is loneliness. Some of it is missing home. Some of it is just stress. And there's just like this overwhelming feeling like, can I do this? Like, I've heard students talk about imposter syndrome. I've heard students just be afraid of the unknown. They're just scared to death. This is normal. It's okay. They should not bottle these emotions up, right? They should talk about it. Most colleges will have health and wellness centers. They'll have counseling centers. They might have get-togethers. They might have Zooms. They might have, opportunities for you to like people groups where you can, like all the first gen students can meet together and kind of go through the challenges that they're having, right? Um, I would encourage, it's going to be okay. Holding it in will make it worse. Um, Campus counseling is key. So I would go and find what services are available on the campus. Um, if it is workshops, it is classes, those are more readily available at the services center. If you are going to need to talk one-on-one with one of their therapists, you're usually going to have to get in line and make a scheduled appointment. So the sooner you can get that done, the better, because there might be a couple week lag time there. Um, Parents, this is where your student, I'm afraid to call, I don't know. Maybe you help them along with that because it will be really important for them to talk to somebody. Or if you have a student that struggles and they have somebody here at home, maybe you can set up a counseling session virtually so that they have someone that they're used to talking to, right? Promote self-care. I got to tell you, your mindset, eating and sleeping and exercising, and I'm not talking like full on, weight training. I'm talking like go for a walk, um, walk around the campus, get some sleep, right? Not sleeping will really mess you up. Eating on a regular schedule, that is also helpful as well. Um, it can help you manage your emotions. It can manage your change. You also want to schedule a visit. So, mom and dad, if you see that your student is struggling, I have heard that people, if I could work virtually and my student is really struggling and I want to keep her in her place, I might, get a B&B somewhere near and go work for a couple days from there. I don't want to hover, but I want to be available, right? A hug can go a really long way, right? But sometimes scheduling a visit and knowing ahead of time that you're going to come, like on a parents' weekend, oh, look, I'll be with you really soon, right? That can be helpful as well. Now, as far as financial responsibilities, there's twofold here. So, first off, if you have not talked with your student about spending money, now is the time. Okay, let's talk about money. Let's talk about the non-existent bottomless pit of cash, right? Let's talk about budgeting basics and your expectations for what they should be covering and what you should be covering, right? So, first off, help your student to understand the importance of managing money, setting a budget. There's a little student ID card. At most colleges will access printing, it will access normal meals. There might be different versions of meals at a cafeteria versus at like more of a fast food restaurant. I mean, you can actually scan your card at like a Chick-fil-A. But that will go down, right? And all of a sudden, mom and dad will need to fill that back up again. So, understanding what money is available and managing that budget is helpful. Also, your student really should understand the tuition and housing costs so that they understand, okay, I'm not fooling around here, right? As a parent, we're paying $15,000 or $25,000 or $58,000 for you to go to school. And this, there's some things that need to be done because of that, right? These are the bills, this is what it costs, and this is what we expect for that, right? The other thing is credit card and debit usage, right? It could be very easy for your student who might not have been exposed to financial things to give them a credit card and say, oh, I have $1,000 limit. Oh, that means I can go spend $1,000, right? No. Well, so first off, you set the budget, but then secondly, make sure that they understand when or when not they should be using their credit card. They should not go crazy on this. maybe give them a weekly allowance. And that allowance is what they have to spend on top of whatever other money that you're paying to the college to pay for food. It helps. And then if they want to spend more than that or want to join a sorority and pay additional fees, then maybe they need to work or pay for that, right? But whatever it is, you guys need to come to an agreement and help your student become fiscally responsible. Because at the end of college, it's going to be ugly if you end up with a bunch of loans and credit cards are crazy. Okay. All right. The other thing is staying connected, right? There's a balance between supporting and allowing your student to be independent. You really want to encourage your student to problem solve. Don't step in. It is so hard. I know. I'm a mom. People will, kids will call and they will say, "Oh, the world is like falling apart." And I'm like, "Oh, I want to go and fix it," right? No, just listen first, right? And then say, what, what, what might you be able to do about that, right? See how they come up. A lot of students, they just want you to listen. They don't want you to solve their problems. They just want to get it out because they just need to get it out, right? Um, Encourage them to figure out how to problem solve, whether that's talking to the professors or coming up with a different way of doing classes, that kind of thing. Um, and in most cases, you as a parent can't step in, especially academically, right? If a mom emails a professor and says, "Oh, my daughter's not coming to class today," well, that does not go over. Okay. Don't think that if you send a note to a professor that your kid's going to get, excused from whatever's happening. Not going to happen. Okay. Um, the other thing is while you're staying connected to your student, you want to respect their schedule and their boundaries, right? So if they're in class, I mean, don't be calling them all the time, right? They have a schedule, right? And maybe they don't answer the phone. It's because they're in the middle of doing something, right? Don't get upset with them. Just again, set regular check-ins so you know that they're safe, but respect their schedule. If they want to study at a certain time or they want to be with their friends at a certain time, it's okay. You need to kind of let them do that. So you can trust your parenting foundation. You guys, for the past 18 years, have laid the groundwork. Trust that your student's going to be okay. And then understand that you're in a new role, mom and dad. You're not the manager anymore. You're not in charge. You're a coach. You're there to kind of offer resources. You're there to offer help and suggestions. And you know what? They might take your suggestion or they might not take your suggestion, and it's okay. Um, I went to App State for an open house with my very first child, and the speaker, the dean there, it was funny because she said, if you tell your child what to do and they do it and it goes wrong, it's all your fault. If you tell your child what to do and it goes right, it's never because you said it, right? So at the end of the day, you can offer help and assistance, but the student has to take control. They have to make their final decision, and they have to be responsible for what happens based on the decisions that they're making. Every decision they make, they're going to get more confident and they're going to, I mean, they're going to thrive, right? This learning is just as key as going to class, right? So resources for parents, right? I would go to the college website. I would go look for parent newsletters from that college so that you understand how they're communicating with you. I would go to the Facebook groups for the colleges, get on that Facebook group. I will tell you that sometimes those are a little crazy. So, don't be alarmed by everything that you're reading about a parent going off on Facebook for a specific college. But if you ever have a question about whatever's going on, I would suggest reaching out to somebody at the college to kind of get the story straight, right? Um, Go look at a FERPA overview. Make sure you have documents in place so that, God forbid, something happens in an emergency, medically or financially with your child, that you have access to be able to help them. Um, Find out about mental health supports, and then, help your student use budgeting apps, QuickBooks or whatever. So, final tips from a parent. I was a parent. I am currently a parent. Make a plan, right? Communicate, 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 communicate. That is going to be so important. Don't be afraid to say it, and don't be afraid to hear it. Okay. Listen, don't offer solutions, right? Just listen and let them tell you. And then if they ask for help in a solution, then, right? Learning outside of the class is just as important as what they're learning inside the class. This is going to be invaluable for them. So if you have any questions or need any assistance, please reach out to us at any time here at Crosby Scholars. And I hope you all have a great holiday.